It's really great to be here. I hope you've had a good day. David Mishi before spoke about not another book on mindfulness, and well, here's another one. This one's a little bit different though. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about, and it's around mindfulness based on the idea of photography. I want to set the scene for why I think these sort of conferences, these books, these talks are so important. A year or so ago, I was doing a talk to a group of young lawyers. Oh, jeepers, sorry. I've been skipping through. Did I have my... Did you... Oh, never mind. I was doing a talk to a group of young lawyers, and anyway, this young, remarkable guy got up, and he talked about how he was going to the courts, and he had his little trundle trolley with him, and he was dragging it behind him. And he said he was very focused on the day ahead and the court case, and he was walking along, and then something caught his eye. And he looked up, and there between two buildings was the most amazing light being reflected. And the building that was copping all the light, he thought was the most remarkable building, and he felt that it belonged in Paris or in Rome. And as he was looking up at this, mid-morning marvel, he suddenly realized that he never looked up, that he'd probably passed this building hundreds, if not thousands of times. And then he realized that he never really looked. And in that moment, standing in the middle of the city, he realized in that moment that he was actually very unhappy. And I think this is quite often what happens to a lot of us. I was at another talk in Geelong Grammar, and a woman came up to us to a parent and teachers night, and a woman came up to me and she said, I have a very busy life. I have a very busy brain. I have a busy husband. I live in a busy house. I've got busy children. How do I stop the busyness? And I think part of the problem is that we give ourselves all these labels. I'm really stressed. I'm really depressed. I'm exhausted. All that sort of stuff. And it's a little bit like what our friend the trumpet player was saying earlier on about being in the now. We're so sort of fearful of what's going on and so forth that we miss what's actually going on. And what I've found is that we are so often surrounded by incredible beauty and stunning moments, but the problem is that we're too self-absorbed or stuck on autopilot or being attacked by our monkey mind. If we open ourselves up, our eyes, our hearts, our minds, we can find extraordinary in the ordinary. The busy, the chaotic, the traffic jam, the commute, the endless deadlines, the craziness, the busyness can become serene. It can become quiet. It can become peaceful. The other thing that I really like is we can also find beauty in the things that don't traditionally hold beauty. Like I've been loving being here today, just walking around inside the Seymour Centre. I love these sort of places. The thing is, the problem is that the supercomputer that we have in our minds is constantly yanking us in all sorts of different directions. It's fast forwarding to the future or always rewinding to the past, or we're stuck on that autopilot. The thing is, when we can open ourselves up to being in the moment, life can become so much more interesting, so much more validating. We can find mindfulness through doing the dishes. We can do it through walking the dog. We can do it through listening, having a conversation. We can do it through swimming, all sorts of things. But the one way that I find mindfulness easier for me, and which is slightly more creative, is through photography. I like to call it photo present. The things with the photography, if you really think about it, is a physical manifestation of mindfulness. We have to stop, we have to look around, we have to focus, we have to frame, and then we have to capture. If a camera could talk, it would ask you, what can you see that no one else can? What grabs your heart? What grabs your mind? What makes you smile for reasons that you can't fully explain? What can you capture that will never, ever happen again? And I think this is probably one of the most important ones. What can you see that is totally different? What I like to do in a little bit of make-believe sometimes when I'm walking around with my camera is I like to pretend that I'm some sort of celestial being or some alien that's been beamed down to Earth, and I have the avatar of a human body, and I'm here for a short time, and I've got to really explore what I'm looking at, really looking at what I'm doing and trying to see something that I've never actually noticed before. And it's a good thing to do, if you take the same route to your bus stop or if you're going to the same place every day and when you're going out for lunch, just really look around, slow down and open your eyes. When we do this, we actually start to realize that we're just constantly surrounded by little moments, beautiful light, beautiful colours, beautiful shapes, but the things we quite often just pass them by. So where do we start? I'd like to start right here in this room, right at this moment. And if you could just sit up straight. Boy, a lot of people slouching in this room. Sit up straight. I just want you to gently put your hands face down on your thighs. Stop texting and Facebooking and tweeting. And I just want you to shut your eyes just for a couple of minutes. And I just want you to center yourself with some nice, deep, relaxing breaths. And this is all about awareness. I just want you to bring your awareness down to your feet. I just want you to push down on your feet a little bit and just have a connection with the ground. Maybe wiggle your toes and your shoes. See if you can feel the socks on your feet. See if you can feel the inside of your shoes. Now slowly bring your awareness up to your calf muscles. Maybe give them a little wiggle. And then I want you to bring your awareness to your hands on your lap. Just give your thighs a little bit of a squeeze, not someone else's. And just become aware of, the fabric of your pants, your dress, your skirt. Just feel that texture. Feel the muscles in your legs. Say thanks to your legs for taking you places. Now become aware of your bum sitting on the seat. Maybe the back of the chair and the small of your back. Now bring your awareness, say, up to your mouth. Just be with your mouth. Maybe run your tongue around the inside of your mouth and your teeth. Now bring your awareness to your breath. Feel the breath going in and out of your nose. And just become aware of the stillness in this moment. Now bring your awareness to your ears. Obviously you can hear my voice, but what else can you hear? Just sit for a moment with the silence. Okay. Now if you just slowly open your eyes and have a look. What I want you to do now is just have a look at your hand. At the palm of your hand. Give yourself a little wave. And I know it's not very, great light in here, but just have a look at your hand and the lines on it, the patterns that are made. Look at the creases. Look at your fingers, the amazing things that your fingers do every day. Thousands of jobs that we take for granted. Then what I want you to do is I just want you to slowly rotate your hand, and as you're doing it, just become aware of the light and the shadow as it changes. And then have a look at the back of your hand. And see if you can find something in the back of your hand that you've never noticed before. I was taking a retreat up at the Golden Door and some woman said, "Thanks, Matt, I never realised I had hairy knuckles." But this is really what it's all about. We are in the moment, right at this moment. There will never be another one like it, but there are a billion more to catch, or there's a Google more to catch with our mind or with our camera. The really important thing I think around about photo present is that it is time for yourself. It's not, the end game isn't necessarily the photograph. It doesn't really matter what the photograph is. It's really about the process. And if we do practice this, if we go out, it's a little bit like meditation or exercise or anything like that. If we practice just bringing ourselves to the present moment every once in a while, I think it's actually impossible to be in the moment all the time. We just need to practice bringing our awareness to what's going on at any given time. And when we do this, whether we have a camera or whether we don't, it doesn't really matter. It begins to infuse our lives, and it gives us more space to actually solve problems that might be going on. And as you've heard earlier on, mindfulness is used as a very, very powerful tool in modern psychology. The other thing that I like to do is when I'm walking around with my camera, and if I don't have my camera, I'll quite often have my smartphone with me, my iPhone. And if you're going to actually try and do this, what I'd suggest is with your smartphone is I'd switch it to airplane mode so that you're not going to be distracted by Angry Birds or Twitter or making phone calls or whatever. Because, these have amazing cameras in them as well. A lot of the photographs in the book were taken on the iPhone. And I think what we can do is when we're walking around with our camera or with our phone in our hand, the weight in our hand can be the reminder to bring stillness and to a calmness no matter how chaotically busy. One of the things that I love to do is to stand in very busy places and just try to still myself and just have a look and see what's really going on. When's a good time? I really believe that first thing in the morning or the afternoon, when this time of year is actually my favourite because the shadows are so strong and the colours are strong and there's, it's that real twilight feeling. And one of the things that I actually realised, which I find still quite bizarre, I only started getting into my photography in about my mid-30s. And one of the things that I didn't realise was if you actually stand and stop and look at something, especially when the sun's at dusk, the whole picture changes in front of your very eyes. The colours change, the hues, the shadows, the contrast. It's quite amazing. And the things we don't do that enough. The other thing that I think is really important is if you want to find wisdom, if you want to find what mindfulness is all about, look at small children. They are the best at it, I believe. Give a toddler a spoon and they are in awe of it. They are so in the moment. They express themselves accordingly. And they're so in the moment because for them there is no other. And I also think, the other thing that I'd like to say about children is that if we can ourselves take on a little bit of them and try and see the world as a child. It's going back to that sort of alien beam down here for a little bit. Just try and see the world. Try and find something that you've never seen before and see the world as if you're here for the very first time. I read an article, I think it was in National Geographic quite a few years ago, and it was about a guy that put himself into a solitude for about 365 days. It was somewhere in Alaska or in Canada. It was deep, deep wilderness. And one of the things that he did every day was he went out with his camera and he would take one photograph. He said there was real pleasure and pain in this because, the thing was there were so many things to take photographs of, but he had to limit himself to one photograph. The other thing that he found really difficult was that because it was filmed back in those days, he didn't know what he was really seeing, so he couldn't see the photographs until he came back. And I have to say, the photographs that he took were stunning. They were absolutely beautiful. So what I'd like to suggest is if you're going to give this a go, try and limit yourself to, say, 3 to 5 photographs. And the other thing that you might like to do is try and figure out what you might be interested in taking photographs of. It could be people, it could be animals, it could be clouds, it could be sunsets, sunrises, whatever it is, whatever floats your boat. There's no right or wrong ways to this. Now, I know you've all been sitting here and going, these have been really nice pictures to look at, or maybe you don't, I don't know. But I'm going to get you to do a little exercise first. But just to exemplify the point, I'm a little bit like one of those cooking shows where I prepared something a little bit earlier. And what I did was I came here a couple of days ago and I did some photo present, if you like. I came here for an hour, I came here at 4, and I gave myself from 4 to 5. And I also meditated just right before it because that again opens me up, makes me more involved or invested in what I'm looking at. A lot of people say that sometimes, someone said to me once that they thought that my photography had a little sense of isolation or solitude to them. And I think there's probably an element of truth in that. But what I tend to see when I'm taking the photographs is an element of tranquility or peace, when it's just me and the universe. And it's also how I feel when I reflect on them, when I look back on them. I can get back to how I was, where I was, how I was feeling on that particular day. So this was just out the front. And then I'd actually never been here before, and I sort of wandered around the back and all around the back of the university. And one thing that really struck me was how autumn, winter was upon us and all the colours reflected in that. The other thing that I really like doing is I like putting this is part of my mindfulness process as well, is when I'm editing, I like putting photographs together. They don't necessarily need to make any sense, but they just sort of tell a story without actually telling one. It's a little bit like James Morrison's music, that told a story. It didn't necessarily need to make sense, but it was there. It was like the food that we eat. The other thing that I like doing is just finding the conflict between organic and non-organic. Anyway, what I want you to do, actually there was one more. This was actually just across the road. And I was taking a photograph. I wanted to get to photograph the letters of the two doors because we had two doors side by side, and I heard this, and I looked down, there was a dog looking up at me. And I crouched down, and just as I was taking the photograph, he pulled his head back in. It's very cute. But anyway, I know you've been sitting here, and what I want you to do is I've actually got a little bit of homework for you, and I'd love you to give this a go if you can find the time. And what it is, where's my next slide? Is there any more slides? Technology. Anyway, okay, so what the idea is that I want you to go and take a mindfulness photograph, and then you've got to post it to the Happiness and It Causes Facebook page. So when you go to the Happiness and It Causes Facebook page, I'd very much like you to like that page because they just do incredible things, and I think we should support them. Here's the catch. You've got until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And for those of you who are not on Facebook, I'm sorry. So that's the idea. So one photograph, or you can put two photographs together on one image, but there's one image posted on the Happiness and It Causes Facebook page, and then and it's going to be judged tomorrow, so it's got to be up there by 9 o'clock. And you could win one of 3 fantastic prizes that have been kindly donated by Pan Macmillan Australia, who are here today. So please give it a go, and I hope that you can just find a little moment when it's just you, yourself, and the universe. Thank you very much.